Welcome. I'm Harmony Slater, your host of the Finding Harmony podcast. Over the past 20 years, I've taught thousands of yoga teachers and students to explore the intersection between ancient wisdom and modern everyday life, using mind-body practices to heal, awaken, and manifest their dreams from the inside out. This podcast is a sanctuary for those feeling overwhelmed by life's challenges. Are you ready to jump in and discover how these challenges aren't actually in the way, but are the way to finding harmony? Let's invite the magic back in. Hi, welcome. Just in case you haven't been paying attention for the last few weeks, we've been talking a lot about wealth, and wealth not just being about money, but wealth actually being about energy. So what if tending to your finances was as much of a spiritual practice as tending to your body, to your breath, spending time on your yoga mat? Today's guest understands this truth deeply because I'm sitting down with my dear friend and student, Kathy Reisfeld, a longtime Ashtanga yoga practitioner and certified financial planner who's been helping clients reduce stress and worry in their financial lives for more than 25 years. Kathy's career began in New York City with Morgan & Stanley, and her yoga practice also grew and developed in New York City right around this same time as 9/11. So we're going to look at how she learned to navigate major shifts in her personal life, in her professional life, where she was living, and how she's using both the skills she's learned through her Ashtanga yoga practice over 25 years and all of the tools she's accumulated becoming a certified financial planner to help guide and create financial plans for her clients rooted in their values, their goals, and their long-term vision for well-being. But what's most inspiring about Kathy is how she integrates this sense of steadiness and discipline and inner clarity that she's really cultivated and honed through her yoga practice into how she approaches money, risk, and even the idea of freedom in general. She recently opened up a Mysore-style Ashtanga yoga space right outside her home in her own big barn in Berkshire Hills, blending her love for practice with her belief that true wealth is wholeness and that our financial health, our physical, mental, and spiritual health are all deeply intertwined. And so today, this conversation is going to inspire you because we're talking about what it means to build sustainable prosperity. The kind of wealth that's not just in your bank account, but deeply embedded in your cells, in your tissues, and in that connection you have with something beyond your body. We're exploring the parallels between showing up on your mat and showing up for your future self in a way that is making plans for your financial future, and how the rhythm of daily practice helps to create resilience in both these areas of life. I'm so excited to be sitting down to speak with Kathy on this topic of which she is a true expert, and I know it will enrich your life in more ways than one. All right, let's take a deep breath. I know money always brings up all the little things, but we are about to explore the intersection of our financial well-being with embodied discipline and soul-centered living. Hi, welcome to the Finding Harmony podcast. I am here today starting this podcast in the way that Russell likes me to start it, where I say, hi, welcome to the Finding Harmony podcast. Here's my co-host, Russell.
I'm trying something new today. I don't know if the people at home who are listening, I was thinking about trying my rebrand
have to watch YouTube for this part.
It's been suggested to me that I wear spectacles. And so I have to really get my face close for them to work, though. Oh, Kathy, hi.
Hi, Russell.
How
I
are
feel
you
like I can
doing?
take you much more seriously now.
Yes, you should. Long
Yeah.
time no see. As they say in Mandarin, 好久不见,
Yeah, I
which
don't
means,
speak Mandarin.
oh, you
Either.
don't? I thought you
No,
were here speaking on behalf of a Chinese financial institution.
no, not yet.
Oh,
Not yet.
okay. So that's in the cards for the future.
Yeah, but you two know each other from like 25 years ago, back in the day.
Yeah,
I was
22. Yeah.
I think I was
22.
known
Yeah.
as handstand man,
I think it was handstand floaty guy.
handstand floaty guy.
Yeah.
I was a David Swenson devotee and
Mhm.
came up from Texas. And in Texas, we all do handstands there. That's like standard. And
Okay.
so,
Well, you know what they say about Texas. Go
no,
big or go home.
what they say about Texas is nobody has a back bend in Texas. So I
Okay.
came to New York to do handstands. What did you come to New York for?
I came to New York to, I don't know, I think just I did wind up in finance and I had planned on being in finance when I moved there. But yeah, I moved there right out of college.
You
Yeah.
look so much like my wife that I'm imagining that you have some kind of Norwegian stock from the Midwest. Is that what's going on here?
I have stock from the Midwest. I don't know about Norwegian.
You look Scandinavian, my friend. I mean, come on, we've been to Sweden. Look at her. What's your last name?
Maiden name was Stanfield.
Oh, okay, so
Stanfield.
yeah. The flow of Vikings that went into the north of England,
Mhm.
that's where you are from.
Okay.
Got to get on that ancestry.com, you know.
Yeah, I guess I do. I had wanted to, but now I'm
23andMe.
Your
more
parents
curious to
are-
see.
Your
what
dad's
Russell knows.
English?
Yeah, English, a little bit of Native American,
That's
and
exciting.
yeah, I think a little Welsh as well.
Yeah, you've got the Welsh thing for sure.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
spades.
That's
Yeah.
funny. You're like my friend Shannon, who's also very blonde, very
Native American.
European looking,
Yeah.
and also is Native American.
Oh,
Yeah.
we should meet.
You should. I think you would like each other a lot.
I just spit coffee.
Okay, so you came, what did you graduate college with? What kind of degree?
I started as a physics major and then I switched to econ and graduated with an econ major.
Goodness
Yeah,
gracious me. And was that in Iowa, Illinois?
Massachusetts.
That's not a Midwestern college.
No, my parents are both from Missouri. So
Missouri,
yeah,
as they
but
say.
I grew up on the East Coast though.
But you weren't born in Missouri.
Nope.
And you
I
wouldn't
was
even say
born on
Missouri.
Long Island.
You would say Missouri.
Long Island.
Yeah.
She's not from the Midwest at all then.
No.
Are you from Merrick, Long Beach?
I was born in Huntington and then we moved on to a boat when I was like 18 months old or so. Yeah, so then we lived in Boston Harbor for a couple of years and then Portsmouth, Rhode Island.
What percentage of your childhood memories are on a boat?
Well, we moved off when I was like 8.5.
Wow.
Yeah,
You think of life as an aquatic adventure.
yeah, I do.
Huh. That's amazing. Well, I was just thinking to myself that I didn't realize I was Jewish until I visited the Promised Land, which was
Mhm.
Temple Beth Am in Merrick, Long Island.
So you make it all the way to the Big Apple, but it's kind of in your neighborhood,
It's
it sounds like.
miles
I
away.
know.
Yeah.
It wasn't that big of a jump. You're a genius. In high school,
Um,
they all said you were Kathy the genius.
No, I grew up in Providence, which is like a college town. So post
Oh,
living on
yeah.
the boat, we moved to Providence when I was like 9. And I mean, I was good at math. I was on the
Yeah.
math team,
It
but
sounds like it.
yeah.
You're like a mathlete.
There was like 13 boys in math club and you.
Yeah. No, there was one other woman who also was there. Yeah. Yeah.
Why did you change from physics to like finance?
Honestly, I was taking like too many advanced level, like abstract math and quantum physics and all these things that I've never worked so hard in my life and like struggled with so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I really enjoy physics and math to a point, but when it gets really abstract,
Yeah.
I enjoy it less. And then and at the same time, I was taking my first like macroeconomics class and it was just like so easy.
You're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, this might pay better and it's easy. Yeah.
You're like, I see my future.
Yeah. Yeah. It just like, I don't know, it felt so just everything made sense and I was so beautiful.
Yeah, dealing with
Yeah.
this realm instead of the quantum realm.
That gets really crazy.
One of my favorite films is Margin Call, if you know that film with Kevin Spacey. And it's all about the financial collapse in 2008. And it's a kind of a take on the collapse of Bear Stearns.
Okay.
And the lead in the film, he was asked, so how do we know that these figures you're presenting us on why our firm is about to collapse are true? And he said, well, I studied propulsion in rockets. But the pay is considerably better here at Bear Stearns. So that's your story.
I mean, I never studied propulsion, but yeah.
What did you love the most about physics?
I loved like basic mechanics and just the fact that you can sort of see the world so clearly and like cause and effect and all the different forces that are out there. Like it's fascinating to me and fun. I don't know. I like building things.
So like from the outside looking in, just like walking into this conversation and being told to be here cold.
Walking in blind.
Walking in blind, as a matter of fact. You've got someone who is very strong with figures, organizes her time very well, likes an aquatic adventure, and really likes to understand how things work. And at a certain point, she said, you know what, Ashtanga yoga is for me. And like that makes sense, actually. That tracks with the kind of person that we're talking to. At what point did you say to yourself, I think Ashtanga yoga is for me?
I mean, the first time I did a lead primary class was out in this like sort of semi-abandoned loft building, it felt like, in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And I felt like I'd like taken ecstasy on the train ride back to Manhattan. Like,
how many times have you taken ecstasy before that?
0.
Was that that German student who was an assistant to Guy, that young lady?
No, she was a student of Barrel's. I was also
Birch.
running a lot at the time, and I was kind of looking for a complement to running.
In the economic circle, yeah, that makes sense. There was a whole. I know most of our listeners are aware of this, but that's a culture. Was the running financial group, financiers who then got into Ashtanga yoga through Beryl Birch. That's a whole sub demographic of our culture.
I haven't met them, but good to know.
You did that day.
You were one of them. Okay. It's amazing how often we're in a subgroup and now don't realize how many others there are of us.
I didn't know I was in a subgroup. Show me these people.
I think that subgroup has probably moved on at this point.
Yeah.
You're the only one still going strong, Kathy.
Maybe. Yeah.
And what year was that? You're doing finance?
That was like the Thursday before September 11th, so 2001.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was like a Tuesday, Thursday class. And so it was the Thursday before, and then I couldn't go that Tuesday, obviously. So,
wow.
That's amazing.
But I was like so worried that the class wouldn't be back on because I didn't even know what I was doing at that time. You know, I knew it was like power yoga, but I didn't know it was Ashtanga or anything like that. And
because Beryl always called it power yoga.
Yeah, so I didn't find out it was called Ashtanga until later. And then I lived, in the neighborhood of the Puck building. And so I was like out walking my dog one morning and it was like 6 a.m. and all these people were out with like yoga mats, like clearly all going somewhere.
So that's crazy. We could have actually bumped into each other.
Totally.
That day because Patabi Joyce was in town that week.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised your class wasn't canceled in Brooklyn so that the teacher could go to class.
I don't even know how much of an Ashtangi she was outside of, Beryl's teaching.
Right.
I don't even know what happened to this person. I don't know if she still teaches, if she still practices, but she got me into it and I'm eternally grateful. So
amazing. And how did you find Guy then? How did you make your way into Manhattan?
That's a big jump.
Yeah. So, I lived in Manhattan and so I was taking this, twice a week class and I somehow got a hold of like a cheat sheet and I would practice at home once in a while as well. But I didn't really know much more than it was maybe called Ashtanga yoga. And then this woman who was teaching, I think she started to fizzle a little on the schedule and maybe wasn't teaching as much or even at all anymore. So then I started looking for, I was like, I think I would like to go on like a yoga retreat or something like that. So I found that Nancy Gilgoff and Christine Hoare were teaching a 1-week workshop up in Vermont. I signed up for that and it was amazing. And I ask Nancy who she would recommend practicing within the city. And she said that whenever she went there, Guy hosted her.
That's true.
Oh.
So that is
did you ever
why.
go to see her at Guy's?
Yeah, yeah,
That was a profound week for me, meeting her and
yeah,
learning from her.
yeah,
She
yeah.
was awesome. She was working on this interesting kind of concept at the time of light and dark, and trying to marry the light and dark dynamics of ourselves together and kind of and unify them into.
Hmm.
And I said, I thought we were trying to transcend light and dark and polar dynamics. And she said, we live in this world of polarity, of binary polarity, the sun and the moon, men and
Hmm.
women. And so, we have to live in the world that we live in, and then we can, better understanding it, we can then work with it. I thought she was amazing. Okay, you're at Guy's. You're working in finance at an institution. You've graduated school. This is your life. Did you feel like your life was, like, for so many of us when it went to yoga, our life was kind of falling apart at the seams, and we went to yoga? But it seems like this was like something that just was contributing to your balance. And it's like, oh, that fits for me. That's more
Yeah,
balance.
I think so. I mean, I think I always enjoyed my job. I didn't always enjoy the culture of working in finance, especially in New York, but I always really have enjoyed what I do. Like I feel like it's all about my clients and helping them and kind of solving problems. And I find markets fascinating. And so I think that I didn't have a lot of conflict really about what I was doing, but yeah, but I think I wanted more balance in my life. And
Mhm.
yeah,
What
yeah.
sort of dog did you have?
At the time, a Springer Spaniel.
Yeah, that fits, right? That tracks. Mm, makes sense. Yeah.
What's interesting is I feel like the financial, like dealing with numbers and finances and like what you're saying, the markets and patterns, right?
Hmm.
Like tracking
Hmm.
patterns. It's sort of like very in the head and in the mind. And I can see how the practice helps to ground almost like a similar kind of thing, like tracking patterns, but in the body.
Yeah, 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 I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah, and it's just sort of very methodical. And I think that having a method was always nice. It wasn't just kind of all over the place. So,
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, so I
Not
think,
total free form.
yeah, yeah, which, works for some people. I
Mhm.
like things a little more rigid, I guess.
Well, also it's interesting because math is also quite like a pattern, right? There's
Right.
always a pattern. And so
Mhm.
it's not just like random
At
chaos.
its elemental fundamentals, it's random chaos. That's
Well, I think when it gets
Mhm.
into that random chaos, that's when it loses me.
Yeah.
Or it feels
Yeah.
like it's chaotic, and then but there's still somehow like solvable equations in there, but it's
Mm.
where it takes 5 pages of crazy math.
Yeah.
That's when it lost me. But
Mhm.
Yeah.
um yeah,
I
so
see the pattern showing up
yeah, yeah.
of the combination of the two.
So 9/11 happens.
Hmm.
Where were you? It was 8:30 in the morning.
I was in work in Midtown.
You were
Yeah.
in Midtown, and
Hmm.
did everything
Yeah.
stop? Did everyone go to the window?
Yeah, it can't, the first plane had hit and we had like TVs in our offices.
Sure.
And so
Yeah.
I saw it on the news.
Yeah.
And, I was dating a guy who had been laid off from Bear Stearns actually at the time. And we lived
Oh,
Mhm.
down on Bleecker and Bowery. And I was
Mhm.
like, I need to go home and let him know about this. And then I remember being on the train and nobody really knew what had happened yet. And there was like a homeless guy talking about how like a plane flew into the World Trade Center and nobody on the train believed him. Like you could just tell people were like, okay, whatever. And I just remember being like, no, that really happened. And then the second plane hit, I guess, while I was on the train. And yeah, so I went home and woke him up because he was a night owl. This was on Bleecker and Bowery, so we like biked over to the Hudson River and saw the towers fall from there. And I think the first one
Wow.
fell
wow.
while we were biking over.
You
And
saw it. Yeah.
yeah, so
Wow.
I'm not gonna. I promise I'm not derailing the conversation. Just one. I'm just gonna
you can't
show
make
a,
that promise,
a
Russell.
picture.
But yeah,
He's totally derailing the conversation.
yeah, yeah. Where's he going?
He wants to show you his art.
Oh,
This is where I was. I was on Nostrand in Flatbush,
okay.
and this is the
Oh, that's the
painting.
smoke.
that's the painting I made of it. Because
Oh,
that's where I
wow.
was at 8:30 in the morning. I was almost finished with this painting,
Yeah.
and the black smoke started first, but it was this bottom one. The bottom one was black, and then the second trail of smoke started, and then the first black trail turned to white. And then it
Wow.
was like someone came up and told me what had happened, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go home, I think."
Yeah, it definitely made you want to go home.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
funny feeling. It's
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
a funny feeling. Like you're out, you're doing stuff, it's almost normal, and then I think I'm gonna go home.
It was crazy time. But
Yeah.
Did life kind of turn upside down for you for a while, or did it just go back to normal
I
in a
mean,
week or two?
yeah, I guess it kind of went back to normal. Yeah, it's funny. Like I remember I was supposed to go out to LA like that weekend maybe to see
Hmm.
Madonna at
Oh, at the concert.
Staples Center.
Yeah, at the
And
Staples Center.
yeah, so and
But
yeah, I
you would have been
remember
on the
like my
same
manager
flight.
being like, you can't, like you shouldn't be flying right now.
Right.
Yeah, so I remember not doing that. The markets were closed for a few days, but
Mhm.
no, I don't remember it feeling. I mean, it was chaos. I mean, I guess like my boyfriend at the time, he wound up like working for the relief centers that were just sort of
Oh
set
yeah,
up. Like
Yeah.
he and this other
yeah.
guy, they like set up a relief center in St. Paul's, like the church right down there that
Hmm.
was somehow not damaged by the towers that fell
My
right next to it.
my friend was the accountant at St. Paul's. My friend
Yeah.
Chip.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah,
Maybe they
yeah.
knew each other. Yeah. Yeah. Because he was like very involved there for like the whole cleanup period.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess like in some ways it was, but work-wise, it was kind of like business as usual. That was like the beginning of like the first bear market that I had to
Yeah.
advise people through.
I remember there was a kind of a sense of like being in a cocoon, and people outside of Manhattan or even outside of New York were in a separate bubble from our bubble, and that
Hmm.
we were in something kind of intense and weird that we were taking for granted. Like that was my impression of us as a people. And there
Yeah.
were like ricin attacks, and they're like, oh yeah, there's ricin attacks. You're gonna have ricin attacks, of course. And then there was
There
a
was
couple
what?
What are rice and attacks?
people were sending
Those
bags of
envelopes?
ricin
Oh, rice and attack. Yeah. Yeah.
to
Yeah,
Like
I
newscasters and
remember
stuff.
I
that.
forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Like on the
powder. Like
mail.
it's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that's just a thing that happens here. And then
Yeah. Yeah.
another plane went down 4 blocks from me, my apartment.
Hmm.
And my dad called me frantically. He's like, "Are you okay? I heard a plane went down in Brooklyn." And I was like, "Dad, that just happens here all the time." Like,
Do you
yeah,
remember that? Yeah.
yeah.
Feels like
Mm.
Yeah.
that.
It was
Crazy.
just a very funny little bubble to be in, and that you just naturally kind of adjusted to the
Yeah.
chaos and just like this, we're just,
Yeah, because the air was like so bad for so
yeah,
long. But like I
yeah,
remember my aunt being like, how are your lungs? And I was like,
Mm.
fine.
yeah, I guess I'm
Yeah.
fine.
So yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a funny way
Crazy.
that people just adjust
Mm.
to,
Mhm. Yeah, you kind of do just adapt to whatever's going on.
and I imagine like in the Blitzkrieg in London, people really did just carry on, they just kept calm and carried on,
Hmm.
had a cup of tea. It's the weirdest little thing.
I have a question about your career because you've been in this financial industry for so long, and also you've been practicing Ashtanga yoga for a long time as well.
Yeah.
And did you ever feel a conflict between the two?
No, I didn't. I mean, I don't think I felt a conflict. I think I felt like if I wanted to go deeper into the practice, like, could I really keep a full-time job? I felt like I wanted to go to Mysore and spend time there and do things like that. So I felt like a conflict just with being able to devote the time I wanted to, but I didn't feel a conflict like morally or ethically.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm just putting blinders on, but
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's a lot of people in the financial sort of field that were practicing Ashtanga yoga, especially at that time. I don't know
yeah.
if they still are. But yeah, I think that struggle of feeling like I want to go deep into the practice and deep into this
Mhm.
aspect of life that I'm finding really nourishing for myself
Yeah.
is going to require me to sacrifice this other thing that I'm maybe also enjoying or is paying for my pursue
Yeah.
in this spiritual field. And
Mhm.
I think a lot of people feel this conflict sometimes around how their job is sort of the obstacle or the problem to them having the life that they, perceive as freedom or true enjoyment. But actually, the job is what is allowing for that other
Freedom
aspect of
and
life
enjoyment.
of true freedom and enjoyment.
Almost like
Yeah. I mean, I guess. I feel like there was the whole like leap in the net will catch you. Like I definitely had a lot of years where I thought about just
Yeah.
making the leap and just quitting. But then I don't know. I guess I just felt like I don't know if it's just attached to or like loyal to like my clients, where I was just like, like these people put a lot of trust in me when I was 22 years old, and I don't feel like I can abandon them.
That's a really actually
Yeah.
incredible kind of sense of dharma. That it so often, like almost like with Ganesh, the obstacle is the point to
Mhm.
allow for the. You say it much better about what an obstacle is from Ganesh, but it's an opportunity.
Yeah, it's not in the way, it is the way.
It's not in the
Right.
way, it is the way. And
Yeah.
that's like Dharma is not something that we're chained and tied to. It's the thing that allows us to have meaning, purpose, freedom, and
Hmm.
joy. And I
Yeah.
think I think you maybe just because we're North American, like we feel like it's a like it's the grindstone that we're chained to. But
Hmm.
you really seem well balanced and well adjusted. And for a 22-year-old to kind of at that time to have just this is what needs to happen. It's really extraordinary.
I mean, I didn't have these thoughts until at least like post 2003, when
Hmm.
I felt like I got really deeper into it,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
after, meeting Nancy and Christine and starting to practice it, guys, and whatnot. At that point, I was 6 years into my career as well,
Hmm.
so wasn't brand new.
Yeah, they
Um,
kind of grew together. But there is
yeah,
definitely kind of a sense of, especially with the Ashtanga, and especially at that time in history, I don't know what it's like now, but especially at that time in history, there was a lot of pressure almost in a way to go to Mysore, to
Mhm.
be like official or
Yeah,
authentic or valued as a practitioner, or to be like a real practitioner. Like you don't actually practice Ashtanga yoga until you've been to the source in Mysore to
yeah,
practice
Yeah,
Ashtanga yoga.
I've
So
heard that.
I can understand how there's like a strong pull that way to try and think like,
yeah,
oh, maybe I should just give up my job and go to Mysore and practice yoga.
yeah, yeah. I wouldn't have called it a conflict, but there was definitely a tension.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Did you
but
end up going to India?
I did just for 2 weeks. I went and studied with Sharat in 2005.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it was amazing. I had a great experience, and at the same time, I don't know why I never went back. Except, I didn't really feel like I could go for a lot longer than that. Like I've never taken more
Yeah.
than like 2.5 weeks off from work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you were not French.
But at least I got to experience it and see it,
Hmm.
Yeah.
and
Good.
that
Yeah.
felt important.
It is interesting because, like in America, also, most people don't get more than 2 weeks off of work, especially early on in their career.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it
so,
felt like a big deal to take 2 weeks off even. Like,
yeah, it's kind of hard
yeah,
to, get a month or 3 months if you
yeah.
have a regular 9 to 5 kind of job where you're
Hmm.
in an office working.
You'll be
Yeah, yeah.
expelled from your Protestant faith for doing that. I left in 2003 for England right after my first trip to Mysore. And then it seemed to me that things in New York were really kind of fluid. Things were changing quite a bit as far as the Ashtanga yoga scene. And I wonder where your path went, your circuitous route in yoga. Like, did you find yourself going to Eddie's? Like, were you over at Crunch Gym? Like, what?
Yeah, no, I skipped Crunch. I did move over to Eddie's in 2005
Yeah.
and was there pretty much every day until we moved upstate in 2010.
Are you up
Oh,
in the Finger Lakes now? In that
No,
whole
I'm now
circle?
in the Berkshires of Massachusetts, so like the southwestern corner of Massachusetts, but we had moved to Woodstock, New York
Oh,
in
nice.
2010 until we moved here 6 years ago.
Okay. It's not Tom Rosenthal up there, is it?
Yeah, it's Tom.
It's Tom. It is Tom. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom's a great dude.
Yeah, he teaches here Sunday through Tuesday.
Yeah, because now Kathy opened up her own yoga shala.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Mhm.
How do you have time for that?
I don't teach except for Fridays.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
good. But it's your
Yeah,
center.
so we have a barn on our property that we renovated. So our office is upstairs, which is where I am now, and downstairs is the
You're in
yoga
a
studio.
barn. It doesn't look like a barn at all. It looks beautiful.
Yeah, well, it's not a barn anymore.
It's not a barn. Now it's a yoga school, a yoga
Yeah,
studio, and
yeah.
an office, a financial office. You blended your
Yeah.
two worlds into one building.
I know. They're getting more and more integrated. So
They are.
Now, why have I been hearing about Kathy? Like, I hear about Kathy all the time from you. Is like, you keep showing me, look, it's Kathy. You know her from Guys. And like, you keep showing me these pictures. Year after year, you show me your phone. Look, it's Kathy from Guys. And it's like, I'm at a loss.
We just got back from Turkey.
Like most
Yeah.
people, Kathy probably avoided me as
Russell, I
with this-
practice next to you every day.
every day you practice next to
Every
me.
day. Yep.
Oh,
When
okay.
you were there.
When I was there.
That's
Yeah.
a long time ago.
You were
guys.
inspiring.
No one said that in a long time. Thank
Wow.
you. for
Yeah.
that.
So I have a question because a lot of Ashtanga yoga practitioners, not just Ashtanga yoga practitioners, like spiritual humans in general, we had on the money manager who was a monk, and
Mhm.
that's how he got into doing the money managing because, you know, his spiritual community went bankrupt basically, and someone
Mhm.
had to do it. And so then, like, a lot of spiritual people find like money very intimidating and financial topics, financial matters. As a yoga teacher, I remember, especially like running my own yoga school, that was always the part that like felt the hardest, was to
Yeah.
set a rate, to say, this is how much it costs to come to classes, to talk about money. Like, I think we have a lot of unconscious stuff buried around money often. And then we tend to like go into spiritual life or spiritual practices, and so that we don't really have to deal with that part.
It's the
Right.
Jesus complex. That's the
And
complex.
then it all
Yeah.
starts to come up because,
Mhm.
especially if you run your own business as a yoga teacher, I mean,
Yeah.
that's the lifeblood of a business is money.
Yeah, sure.
What would you say to someone who's sort of like coming to you and asking you questions about like, how can I create more income for myself, or I have some income, how can I invest in something that could create more income? Like, okay, for example, my son Jediah, I said to him the other day, because he has a job now, and
Mhm.
so he's making money, and
Yeah.
I said, well, this is great, you're making money. And he said, I'm gonna make my money work for me. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to need quite a bit more
So-
capital.
Yeah, but he's already
Clearly.
investing in some kind of, I think it's just like a cash kind of high interest
Yeah.
fund.
Yeah.
So what can people do? Like, they have a little bit of savings, maybe not like a
Yeah.
huge portfolio, but they want to start to make their money work for them.
The first thing you have to do is figure out, what are the goals for that money? So is something where you want to be spending it on something a year or two from now, or 5 or 10 years from now, or is it for your retirement or your long-term future? Because whenever you're talking about investing, you're, talking about choosing kind of what types of asset classes to invest in, right? So if you have a very short-term goal, you don't want that money to be in something highly volatile, because it could be down when you need it, even though the long-term returns on a well-diversified, more aggressive portfolio are going to be higher. There's a lot of ups and downs along the way, and you don't know when those are going to come. First is sort of setting your time horizon, and then it's a matter of, choosing an appropriate allocation for that time horizon. And there's so many amazing vehicles that make it really easy, like most mutual fund companies, things like that might have something like a target date fund where you can say, hey, I want this money in 2030, and
Right.
it will make
that's
those
amazing.
decisions for you, and usually do them in, sort of low cost index funds
Yeah.
that make it really easy. So I would say, just kind of the first thing though is just having clarity around what the money's for, and then investing it appropriately. Yeah.
And I think this is the other thing that people don't think about, which
Yeah.
is like, they make the money and then they save the money, But actually, there's a better way to make money, which is to make your money work for you, which is investing the money somehow.
And it makes it work for the world too. Like investing is fueling the growth of the economy and the ability for businesses to invest in themselves and grow and, kind of meet the world's needs. So
Yeah.
I think that's why I don't really feel like it's a conflict. It's not a perfect world, but there's so much that is being created by all these amazing humans.
I wanted to talk about retirement, but I'm going to table that for a moment.
Mhm.
What I'm interested in is your status as an expert is I think something that people should be really taking advantage of, because I know a lot of people who say, well, I have a certain amount of money. I'm gonna look at the market. I'm gonna day trade. I'm gonna spend $3,000 of my own money on Beyond Meat, some weird shit like that. And you watch, Beyond Meat kind of just death spiral, and all that money's gone. Where if you've gone to an expert like yourself, then you rely on that person to diversify your portfolio and manage these decisions for you. I don't want to have anything to do with looking at a market and trying to make a coin flip on whether or not, water futures are going up and down. Like, I feel like that's not my place.
Neither do I, Russell.
I hope someone's listening.
Not that that was a true story, but that is not called investing. That's called gambling.
It is gambling.
It's not gambling if you have a belief in the long-term prospects for a company. But
that's what gambling is.
It's taking an unnecessary excessive risk, right? The world has made it so easy for you to have a much lower risk portfolio that has probably similar growth opportunities, maybe even better, by just investing in like the whole market. And then you don't have to worry about what happens to one individual company. Because, whenever you're investing, there's different types of risk. Like if you're investing in stocks, there's market risk, there's interest rate risk, there's economic risk, there's geopolitical risk. Like there's so many different things that can make it go sideways, right? So what you want to do is try and, if you can find ways to eliminate as much of that risk or at least minimize it as much as possible, then that's what you want to do. And you can't eliminate geopolitical risk. You can't eliminate market risk. You can't eliminate interest rate risk, but you can eliminate like individual security risk by diversifying. It's not that different from like a well-balanced yoga practice in that, we do all these different poses to help complement each other and help hopefully avoid injury, but you still get injured sometimes. And
by taking excessive risk.
That's just part of taking the risk of using your body. So,
yeah, it's like doing only back bends and no forward bends or twists.
Or handstands.
Exactly.
And back
Or handstands and no back bends.
Yeah.
Something might go wrong more likely than having a more...
It doesn't mean you're definitely going to. Like you could have made out really well with Beyond Meat. But
yeah, man.
It's a hypothetical and not a true story.
It's a wound. It's a wound for sure.
It's, but make it a lesson instead, because it's not the first or the last time that you're going to be tempted by an individual stock or a company. And
better be the last time.
It definitely wasn't the first. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. But you don't have to take that kind of risk. You can just invest in a more diversified way. And it's one thing that, if you want to take the risk, then it does become more like gambling and, just know what you're doing, meaning gambling.
So speaking of risk, and I think this is really a crucial point, and I would like to hear your opinion on it, is this notion of retirement. Because to me, it's an absurdity. Retirement seems to be the kind of thing that's constructed for people who are manual laborers, who are destroying their bodies, working for a corporation, and they need to be rewarded for that 30 years that they've destroyed their physical bodies for that work. But if you look at someone like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who worked up until the day that she died and had an enormous amount of self-worth and societal contribution and passion for what she was, investing her time in, no one would say Ruth Bader Ginsburg, should retire. So someone like Warren Buffett, for example, instead of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, might be a better example. I was on a date with Harmony and I saw Warren Buffett walk right by me. I was someplace in New York. And it was amazing. It was like, this guy's still working. He's 85 years old, 90 years old, still at work, and he loves it.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure that I should be thinking about retirement because I'm not doing physical labor. You're doing your work to sitting in a chair, and that's what I do. Why would I think about retirement. Like, I feel like I should be maybe thinking about mitigating risk of like not being able to work.
Yeah. I just think that anytime you are doing anything, there's always the risk that you can't do it. So you could have a stroke and that could affect your ability to paint better or worse.
Mhm.
And, similarly, teaching, like it can be hard on the body. And so
Very
maybe
hard.
you can't keep doing that in the same capacity that you were doing it or the same way. So I think it's more a matter of planning for, those contingencies. And as you age, the risk of something like a stroke or something that would physically or mentally make you less capable, I think is something you need to plan for. So I think you always want to know that a lot of times when I'm planning with clients, it's not so much like, okay, when you turn 65, this is when you're going to retire and step back from, working altogether. But a lot of people, it's sort of like, well, this is when I'm going to not have to have the 6-figure job. And instead, maybe I'll just work part-time and have some income, but not necessarily as much. So I think it's more, you always want to kind of plan for having the ability to step back, but not necessarily the necessity that you step back. So.
Well, let me ask you then, if you don't mind. Like, so we're probably all around the same age. And are you planning for contingencies, or have you thought to yourself, I'm gonna retire, I'm gonna step out of this when I'm 55?
Like next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I enjoy working and I enjoy my clients. I think I would like to have more time to travel a little bit more and maybe teach yoga a little bit more, but I certainly don't need all day to do that. So I think more about like, do I want to like expand our team here? And that way, I don't have to always feel like I have to be there 100% of the time, but I certainly don't feel like I'm ever gonna 100% step back or, like a lot of people will sort of build up a practice and then sell it. I really don't think that that's something I'm ever gonna want to do.
That's a beautiful way of thinking too, because expansion allows you to then kind of work when you want to work, but have other people doing the jobs that maybe you find less enjoyable, who are younger and still building their portfolio.
Precisely. Also knowing that I could do that, like that's freeing. Like knowing like, okay, in 10 years, if I really just don't want to do this anymore, I don't have to. But I also probably not having that pressure in a way makes it feel a lot more fun. So
yeah, I think that's such a beautiful thing to bring up, because like freedom is really having the choice in what you want to do. I mean, that's how I often define freedom is like having the freedom to choose. Am I staying? Am I going? Am I traveling? Am I home? Am I working? Am I not working? And
I think Janis Joplin said that freedom was having nothing left to lose.
that is a type of freedom also.
Yeah, that's the other direction. There's different paths.
Exactly. Okay, I have another financial question, because I was talking to someone closely related to me.
Oh no.
And this person wants to potentially invest in a property at some point. And this person said they didn't really want to invest in the markets to grow their income or grow their wealth, because they didn't believe in the world and there's no ethical investments that you could invest in.
Oh, I know this person.
Because see, it's a real person.
I know who you're talking about.
Because everything is like, feeding into a system that they didn't believe in.
Arms or oil and gas or something like that.
Right. Yeah. And I think that this is also kind of like a weird pseudo-spiritual kind of point of view or perspective that many people carry with them, that like the markets are evil and people are using your money to create war and
exploit labor.
Yeah, exploit labor or this type of notion. What would you say like about the dark side, exactly. Not the rainbow side or the light side.
Yeah.
But what would you say to someone who like really wanted to increase their income or their wealth or their abundance through investment, but wanted to invest ethically?
What I deal with is public companies. Like I think when people feel really strongly and kind of don't believe at all in capitalism, like I'm not here to try and convince them that they're wrong. Like I think there's a lot of benefits to capitalism. I think it's a very flawed, imperfect economic system that's the best we've come up with so far and hopefully we'll come up with something better someday. But we're not there yet. And I think I just try to see the good in what you can do in the markets and with any money that you earn. Like if you're building wealth, then ultimately maybe you have more that you can give to charity and sort of look at it that way. But it's a tough one. I don't think there's a right answer. And you can look at like ESG investments, which stands for like environmental, social governance. And, but at the same time, there's a lot of greenwashing in the world.
Yeah.
And, you can't get around that.
For our listeners at home, that seems to be self-evident, but can you describe that?
So it's the idea of just portraying something as being better for the world than it really is, and just really kind of focusing on just like virtue signaling. I would say it's like a type of greenwashing in the world, on a just sort of normal day-to-day, like personal level, but sort of doing things just to try and make it sound like you conform to some standard that will allow you to be in a fund. You could have like a sustainability index where they focus on, just eliminating the worst offenders from a greenhouse gas emission. Like there has to be something that you can quantify. The issue with a lot of like these ESG funds is that there's no standard, there's not really a standard so you don't always know. And also what's important to you, like, if animal rights is important to you, then there might not be a fund that really focuses on that. There's sort of, so it's hard to find things that make it easy to kind of invest with your own values and ethics. My opinion is do the best you can and focus on the good that can come from it. And like nothing's perfect. The world's not perfect. The economy is not perfect. And yet so much good can come from things. Like I think to sort of paint with such a broad brush that like every public company that's out there or the majority of them is evil, I think is like, you're kind of missing the plot. Like they're filling needs, otherwise they wouldn't exist. And you can help fill those needs, or you can go become an ascetic in a cave somewhere. So
to piggyback on that, I feel like that at the heart of what we're talking about, whether it's capitalism or socialism or communism, is the where it breaks down within each system or any institution is corruption. And corruption is so obviously, motivated by selfish interest and wealth. And I feel like that there isn't a place in the world that's been observed that isn't subject to that. No system is impervious to the corruption of selfish interest. And so the communism is, amazing. All workers doing really well sounds great until the people in charge of the system just start hoarding cash.
I feel like that's where at least capitalism embraces our selfishness and allows it to motivate people and hopefully facilitate more growth in the world that ultimately benefits all levels of society. I know there's plenty of arguments against that idea, but at the same time, the sort of standards of poverty now are much higher than they were 100 years ago.
It's interesting too, because I think sometimes, like everything, back to Nancy Gilgoff and trying to merge the light and the dark together. We, you have like a company like, I don't know, let's just say like Walmart, for instance, right? That has very cheap products that like, that's a really nice thing for people who don't have a lot of money to be able to buy goods at a lower price.
Right.
But then there's sort of like maybe this darker side where people are questioning like where they're being made and are those people being paid properly, and so
or the middle class operation that was put out of business by the Walmart moving into town.
So there, everything kind of has at least two sides.
Exactly. And I guess like you can sort of reject that and try and find only the perfect thing. Which, are there other ways that you can invest? You can buy government bonds if that makes you feel better. You can, invest in your home. There's plenty of other ways to build wealth. Are they really...
Or property?
Yeah. Are they necessarily better for the world? I don't know. That's up to you to decide. It's not up to me to decide. I think there's plenty of good things that come from investing in the broader markets, and I don't feel morally,
Yeah. Is there such a thing as like a vegan fund or like I know there's
you invested in Beyond Meat already.
like a green fund. I know there's green funds.
Yeah.
But is there like, could you find different mutual funds or different type of sort of investment bundles that kind of, invest in women-owned businesses or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely are. There's certainly plenty of things out there. You just kind of have to do your research on, first figure out what are the things that are most important to you, and then find the funds that are most aligned with that.
I think there'd be a downside, though, maybe like that. If you're grouping all those funds together, then maybe your portfolio isn't as balanced as.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's where I have struggled in trying to construct, sort of more ESG type portfolios for clients is like a lot of times it's easy to do that and, maybe just have a large cap stock portfolio, but then you wind up overweight in tech because they are the cleanest in a lot of ways, theoretically at least. And so, just purely from like a greenhouse gas emission standpoint, for example, so you wind up with portfolios that aren't really that well diversified. And so I think that's where you kind of have to decide, are your values what's going to drive the portfolio, or are your investment goals going to drive the portfolio? And how can you make those two meet? And sometimes you have to do it imperfectly. And that is also one way to do it. Yeah, it's not my preferred way, but
it's super interesting because we've definitely put like a majority of our wealth back into our own house. Like we put just about everything we have into it. And now we doubled down. We went and got solar panels, which seemed to be like another kind of green way to reinvest in ourselves. But would you say that I love that expression, overweight in tech. Are we overweight in our house?
So it depends on what your needs are. If you want liquidity, like it's hard to pull it out of your house quickly and easily if necessary. You might be able to take a home equity line of credit or something like that against it if you needed some cash, or you might decide to sell it and hopefully, get back what you put into it and then some. But I would say, it depends on what your objectives are. So I think ultimately, more diversification is better.
Yeah.
But better at what? It's better at providing you alternative, because there's also periods where the housing market can be down. We haven't seen it in quite a while, but, housing prices can go down as well. And, and then you're also sort of locked into one place, which, do you want to be?
We need to diversify more.
Speaking of peak periods in your life, where were you in 2008? November 3rd, 2008?
When the markets crashed in the States because of all those bonds that had invested in the subprime mortgage.
How did that affect you?
I was in contract to buy a place in Jersey City and got out of it because my husband lost his job shortly before that.
Lucky.
And that was probably a great thing.
Wow.
And and I moved so I started my career, I spent my first decade at Morgan Stanley, and I moved to Wells Fargo Advisors at the time. So I was just starting there in the middle of a, horrendous bear market. So I was working.
Wow. But that's obviously what margin call is about.
Yeah, I was holding a lot of hands and also trying to sort of rebuild my practice.
What is that like to hold a lot of hands? Your clients, they're saying, I got to get out of this. And you're just like, no, easy. This will be fine.
Yeah.
What is that?
I mean, thank goodness there's people like Warren Buffett who, we can quote. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's just dealing with a lot of fear that all happens at once from all the same people at the same time. So it can be a little bit draining, but ultimately, I do have confidence and faith in markets functioning and working well. And we've always recovered from the past. I mean, that was one time where it did seem like our financial system might actually collapse, but it didn't. Thank goodness. And I guess my sort of feeling, and if any of my clients are listening to this, they'll have heard this one before, but like, if we get to that point, we've got bigger problems than the portfolio. So I think you just have to like invest as if things are going to recover because there's really no other choice. So
that's another example where the corruption of the financial institutions that were measuring these mortgages became a real issue. Do you think regulation is a bad word?
I think that regulation can be onerous, and it can make things less efficient, but I think it can also obviously put protections in place where there's obviously been failures and breakdowns in the system. And I think thinking about, subprime mortgages and the fact people were able to borrow against their properties without, having to actually document their income or anything like that. It was all just on stated income. Like nobody had to put all their financial records up for scrutiny. I guess the way that I think about it is it's like, I feel like all of the blame gets put on the banks, and they're to blame. There certainly was greed there. There was money to be made and they were happy to take it, right? But at the same time, like, what about all the people that were just speculating and not really thinking about the fact that, maybe housing prices don't go up forever. The fact that, like, I don't think it's all one side that should be given all of the blame. Doesn't mean that they shouldn't have been the responsible adults at the table, which they clearly weren't enough. But at the same time, I think everybody needs to take accountability for their own actions. And, it wasn't just lending that, it was speculation on the whole that led people, and I think we tend to see this in just bubbles in general, whether it's housing in general.
Or even like the .com bubble, right?
Yeah, or the .com bubble, or the AI bubble that might be forming, or
the crypto bubble we're currently
like it's just, but you also had like the tulip mania back in, I think, the 1800s. And so, it's just like human nature to get overexcited about things and just only see the upside and not the downside. And I think you always want to just have a little bit more balance and measure in everything that you do. And, if something is at an all-time high, maybe it's not the best time to buy it. Who knows?
Like Beyond Meat in 2021.
I have to say that is the thing that kind of gives me anxiety when I see in the news that there is a push to deregulate everywhere and deregulate markets and deregulate the crypto speculation. It just all seems to be, did we not remember previous collapses and the problems that stemmed from?
Well, and one interesting thing, like in Canada, we didn't have the same level of housing crisis that you had in the US because our banks never had those. Our banks always had very strict, I guess, regulations around, having to prove income, for protection, not just for the banks, but also for the clients, for the people who want to own a house. They're like, if you can't afford it, we don't want you to have this kind of house because it's going to cause you a lot of problems.
Yeah. Right.
So it's a much more regulated society.
We're quite regulated up here.
But again, we were talking about this before the podcast about politics, and it's like eventually everything becomes a political question about, how do you participate in a society?
There's a lot of big questions out there. And I think what's fun is there's, all different answers, and we can see, looking at different countries and different economies, like how each one plays out. So
it's true.
There's plenty to be said for a more high regulation. And then there's also a lot that it can hinder and, impede growth and whatnot that also is a different cost. So I think that's the thing. There's always costs to everything. And it's just a matter of which one is the one you're most willing to accept.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of balanced portfolios, you can invest in other countries as well as the US. So that also helps to balance out your portfolio.
Yeah. You want to be globally diversified.
Yes. Thank you.
Sure.
My banker called me and asked me if I wanted to convert my mutual funds to more American based because he was anticipating a bull rush. And I said, absolutely not. I would like to keep my portfolio global. So I was without being too political, I was anticipating chaos.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of what you're saying is we can't know the future.
Mm-hmm.
If we could, we might make different choices.
Or just hide under a blanket. So
hide under a blanket. Yeah, stuffing money into my mattress.
Also, as my grandfather used to say, the best time to invest was 50 years ago. And given if you haven't done that yet, the best time is today.
Yeah.
Have you told your listeners that your grandfather is a famous investment banker in Canada?
He wasn't an investment banker, but he worked. I don't know. You might not know there was a group in Canada called the Principal Investments.
Okay. Yeah.
Back in like the 80s. Infamous. But so there's a book about them. What's it called? Pay Yourself First.
Pay Yourself First, which is an irony because it's based on another book called Pay Yourself First, but they actually paid themselves first, which became a problem. Yeah, because that's called a pyramid scheme.
It was a bit of a problem for them.
Yeah, you gotta be careful.
You have to don't pay yourself too much first.
Yeah. Make sure you pay everybody.
Pay everybody. Exactly. But yeah, I always was told that you should invest 10% of every dollar you made since I started earning allowance as a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
You invest 10% of every dollar you make.
Yeah. I feel like that's a good percentage. Why not?
Mhm.
I think it depends when you start and how long you have and all that, to get the right
If only
number,
I
but
like kept it up for
yeah.
like that period of time in the middle.
There was a middle
Yeah.
problem where you spent all of your money on India.
Going to Mysore.
That was an investment in
now
your future.
you have those rich memories. So
That's right.
But you also have that level of expertise because it's like investing in university. University gives you no return except for expertise.
See, this is an interesting question also, because we talk about investments in many different ways. And so often this is like a financial investment or an investment that we've been talking about in our global economy, in companies, in ourselves financially. But like, what about other types of investments? Do you think those are as relevant, like investing in yourself and your
human capital?
Or like
your human capital.
Golf,
exactly.
for example.
Yeah, it's always a question of what do you think that you'll be able to translate that into as far as making a living? Like, it wouldn't be a good idea to spend a lot of money to go to school to do something that isn't going to make you any money. Like, from a financial standpoint, it might be very satisfying. But, like I remember I had the daughter of a client who, wanted to spend $80,000 a year going to drama school, which would have been a very big, she would have had to take loans out for the whole thing. Yeah. And that could have been a fantastic financial decision if she made an amazing contacts and became famous, but the odds are in the favor of it probably not being. So I think you have to think about what are the likely results. And also, it's not just about money. There's a lot more to life than just financial success.
Can I tell you a story, Kathy?
Yeah.
When we were practicing next to each other every day, I started taking out student loans to pay Guy for the training that he offered me. And then I started taking out student loans to go to Mysore, India. And so financial institutions that shall remain unnamed were paying me to learn yoga and also to study painting. And so then I went and did yoga with that money. And I came back and got a job teaching a hedge fund manager's children privately yoga. And that money that he was making speculating on financial institutions was going to me, and he was making a lot of it. And then I was making a lot of it teaching his kids. And then I took that money and I gave it to the financial institutions that I'd taken out those loans for. I just think it's a beautiful little circle.
That's what money does, though. It's a currency. And so it's a current. It flows and it keeps flowing. And the trick is, I think, to get in the flow.
And somehow we all flourished in that transfer of energy.
Somehow everyone flourished.
Well, that's why just sticking it under a mattress is not really a good place to keep it. Make it do something.
Because it rots there.
Yeah. Well, it depreciates. Literally depreciates.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It depreciates and rots under the mattress because of inflation. But it needs to circulate.
It does.
Just like our body.
Exactly. It is.
Just like our body.
It's like currency, money. It's like the blood supply of the world. So
energy in our body needs to circulate.
It's like the vinyasa of the Ashtanga yoga practice.
That's right. Interesting.
Keeps everything flowing.
Yeah. Or acupuncture.
Or spinal energetics.
However you keep it flowing.
Be in the flow. So tell everyone where they can come practice at your studio, and if they're looking for someone to talk to about all things financial.
So Ashtanga Yoga Great Barrington is the yoga studio. Tom and Mary Flynn teach here.
Mary Flynn? My fellow MFA grad, my fellow Ashtanga yogi guys. Mary's there?
Mary's here too.
Paul, Mary?
They're here Sunday through Thursday. I teach on Fridays. Yeah, and then Berkshire Wealth Group is our, Scott, my husband, and I, our wealth advisory group.
We can put links to all the things.
If you're interested in talking to Mary or Scott, please just look at the show.
If you want to talk to Mary or Scott or Tom, they will pick up your calls.
Well, thank you so much for coming on our show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for listening to this episode. Wasn't it fun? I loved it. If you didn't know, we have an open community, Finding Harmony community. It's hosted over on Mighty Networks, and I want to invite you to join. It is a place where we have discussions. You can also practice with me once a month, some pranayama, some breathwork practices. We have challenges and meditation groups and conversations about the podcast. You can also make suggestions for guests that you would like us to interview, as well as just talk about what you're learning or what you're noticing, not just in the podcast, but in your practice, in your life. It's a beautiful online community, and I'm curating it on Mighty Networks, and it's open for all of our listeners, so that's you. I hope that you come on over and join us. It's a great group of human beings, heart-centered humans that are all interested in spiritual practices, Ashtanga yoga, coaching, personal development, growth, meditation, breathwork. We're really diving into how to deepen our spiritual practice beyond just the obvious and infuse our spiritual practice into everyday life, how we can find harmony within ourselves, within our lives, and bring it out into the world. So I would love for you to join my Finding Harmony community. You'll find the link in our show notes here and also in my bio on Instagram. I can't wait to welcome you in and get to know you more and have you be a part of this great group of human beings who are all finding harmony in different ways within themselves and within the world. That's it. We've concluded another episode of the Finding Harmony podcast. I just want to thank you so much for doing the work that changes the world, starting with yourself. It truly does make a huge difference. Please make sure you have your automatic downloads turned on wherever you listen so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. I have so much more magic I can't wait to share with you. Lastly, if you're on Instagram, I love connecting and hearing from you. So come on over and say hello at Finding Harmony Podcast. And you can also come say hello to me personally at Harmony Slater Official. Thank you again for being here. I cannot wait to share more with you in our next episode.